This is a case of measure 19 times and cut once. So I've opened up the sheath on this. This is a little nylon. Most people use it to tear the insulation back. This is the drain wire I'm going to keep. And then the 6 wires are inside there. They're still in the foil. So I stripped the foil and cut off the nylon. So now we've got just the drain wire, which I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep it that length, and the 6 wires, the 3 twisted pairs. And so these are the 6 I have to strip, cut, strip, and start soldering up right across there. 6 for the RX for ground voltage, CRSF, and MavLink. Then I'm going to skip a receive pin on a UART and pick up a transmit pin transmitting to my VTX smart audio, and then pick up ground voltage and video out to the VTX right there on 4 pins. That's it. I'm going to start back over on the second row, and we're going to do 6 wires for the GPS / compass. And then we're going to come over to the camera area and hook up ground voltage and video out of the camera to 3 pads there. I do want to hook up LEDs in this area over here, but I haven't looked at that deeply. I'm not even sure if this flight controller does LEDs like the F765 does. That's it in this area. I've got number 1 to hook up the left aileron, number 2 on the RC channels, the right aileron, and number 3 the ESC. That's it. Not a lot, but it's a little scary. So, like I say, I'm measuring about 19 or 20 times and then cutting, and just taking a lot of time thinking about it between each step, because for all these solders and where the wire's placed and then soldered, it's kind of permanent. Or at least if you try to redo it or anything, you really got a mess going on. It's best just to take your time and do it well the first time, I hope. Well, I've got my bench power supply connected to the Caipirinha. Figure I'd go ahead and smoke check the flight controller and my soldering and stuff of the BEC board up to the flight controller portion. Hadn't done that yet, so I'm just going to power it up here off the bench power supply. See if we can generate some smoke. Or is it going to fly? Well, there wasn't a big pop. Got a red light, but I don't have my normal flashing lights that I normally have. .8 volts in. Well, we do have a problem. This is the way it works when I hook up USB power. See the lights right here? A red and a flashing blue. Blue's solid. Now the blue has become a flashing green. That's what I'm used to seeing. Now I'll take this out and turn on the bench power supply. And I get a red light down here under on the BEC board or something underneath here, but I get nothing up here. So there must be something wrong in this area. So I'm going to have to pull it back out of here. And now's the time to have found that. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm going to have to, like I say, pull it out of there and find out what the jig is. Well, there's my problem. I opened it up and immediately VBAT power to the top board's gone. Also, that solder pad's gone. And the solder pad seems to be on this little piece of wire on the end right here. So I lost another solder pad. I do pull on them really hard. That's just from the days when my instructor in the Navy just literally, you could not leave the room until he couldn't break anything. And believe me, he was turkey butt. He really wanted to break it. Now this is an easy fix, because even though the solder pad's gone on this side, basically, I can just flip it over and sort it up to VBAT on this side. So, not a big deal, but I should have powered it up from the bench power supply before I even put it in that cavity. I know better than that, but at least I finally did it. I took it apart, got the wires sort of rerouted in there too, along with everything else, but I got this wire, instead of being in between the two boards, it's outside of the two boards now, out here. This is one that broke off the pad again. I also took the capacitor there, because it looks like in the bay there I do have room enough to lay it over like that so it'll fit in there. And so I was real careful to, this is the, you can see right in there is the two legs for the capacitor, making sure they don't touch together. Because I'm just going to come up and solder this wire to the top board on top this time. Right there, I'm going to cut it, strip it back, and tin it again, and then solder it on the top there, and that should fix this problem. I cut that much wire off the end of that wire, brought it up and around, and soldered it to the top to VBAT. And now I've pulled on it again, and it's secure. Now I did that with it the first time, didn't break it off, but somehow when I was putting the boards together and folding them pins around and mashing the two boards together, I ended up breaking the solder pad off the other side of VBAT right there. Always something. Okay, let's test it again like we should have the first time. You got a bench power supply, you idiot. I could see somebody didn't have a bench power supply and didn't have a XT60 connector on it yet, but I should have known better. So here goes, another try. Bing! How about that? And it stops and then starts flashing green. That's more like it. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot more than what I had a minute ago. So there we go. Now we can go back to putting this in there. See why I wanted to start on a different day? And there is a red light down underneath there that I've never noticed before. But there we go. Proceeding along now. And we can come back over to the bench. I'm going to move this to the right just a little bit if I can. Because you can see right here, battery voltage, and right here, battery voltage. I'm going to go ahead and turn that battery back on, that bench power supply back on. And you can see the voltage comes right up. So, boy, I'm glad I tested that before I sorted up all those wires. Oh my goodness gracious. Also looks like this reads high in voltage, needs calibration, but that's okay. We'll get to that. Let's finish the build. I put a little shrink wrap around the metal can on that capacitor right there. just to shield it from touching. Well, that point right there is, whoops, that point right there is battery. So should it get messed around and touch, it won't make magic smoke. So let's get at it again, stick it back in there and try to proceed. I found another soldering iron in the drawer over there. I forgot I had bought recently. This is a 60 watt. Maybe I need a 80 or so. This is kind of midway between the big one and the solder station. But the solder station, the length of the cable for the soldering iron is just too short. So I've got this on a extension cord where I have a lot of room to move around with this. So this is what I'm going to use right here on the bench for this job. We have another problem. I cut this wire back and stripped it, and it doesn't want to go through the hole in the board. So this wire diameter, putting it down in there, this wire diameter is just kind of too big for the holes in this board. Not on this and the other solid conductors. On this, it's 22 gauge wire. And actually it looks like it can go through the hole. Yeah, it's not easy. And that hole's already got a little solder in it, but there you go. Can go through the hole. So, guess I'll make another attempt. I may have to solder that first one as a pad without sticking it through the hole. I'm not sure. I don't want to have to go back, take this out, solder this twisted pair, the two with the twisted pair to it, and then work backwards, going through the wing to rewire it. Oh, let me fight it a little bit more here. Well, there's the first one soldered in. I'm not happy at all with that, because you can see right there on the side of the insulator where I skinned the insulator enough with the needle nose pliers holding on to it to try to get it stuffed in the hole that the insulator's skinned. Now I'm going to have to do something about that before I move on. Well, there's the smallest piece of black electrical tape I've ever put around anything in my whole career, I think. We're going to continue along here and try to be more and more careful, and hopefully as I do more and more of these, I'll get experience there with them and they'll become easier and easier. It's just these 12 right here, the 6 in this twisted pair and the 6 in the twisted pair in the holes more near to me than the one I've got the one black wire soldered into are the hard ones. The other ones are solid conductor, except for over on the RC channels. I haven't looked at that wire yet. Well, just as I touched the solder to the second one, it backed out of the hole a little bit. See what I mean? I don't like that much wire sticking up that doesn't have insulation on it. But you know what? I don't think it can get over and touch much, so I'm going to proceed on. And there's another one. But I had trouble getting that one to solder. And you can see I burnt the insulator on that side. Now this is not looking pretty. The connections are good though, I believe. All right. So I've got the ground supply voltage and the 2 for CRSF on there, and I've tested the radio. So what I have here is
I'm running the transmitter module out of my TX16S CRSF, and I'm running CRSF between the receiver and the Caipirinha and the flight controller. And you can see here that you can see the yaw throttle. Oops. Have to arm it before throttle works. There's the throttle. Just all the channels. So I've got CRF from my gimbals on my radio to the flight controller. There's 4 out of the 6 wires connected.
Well, there's the first 6. And so the black ground, red voltage, brown is CRSF transmit going to receive on that board. The green is CRSF receive going to transmit on the flight controller. The blue is MavLink transmit going to MavLink receive right there. And the white is MavLink receive going to the transmit on the flight controller there. So now with those 6 connected, let's see if we have both CRSF and MavLink telemetry. Well, that didn't work real good, did it? You see that blue and white wire right there on the end for MavLink? My suspicion is those aren't connected correctly. So even though this is going to be really hard on me, one of the reasons I kind of cut those wires long too, I'm going to swap the blue and the white wire around. Well, I saw MavLink sort of work and it was getting like 50% packets. Yeah, I saw that too. I've seen that before when it was also not true. So let me switch it around. Let's see what I can come up with here. Well, I got the 2 wires switched around. Doesn't look great. And as I was holding on to this with tweezers to push it down in the hole with the soldering iron on it, because there was already solder in here, the tweezers slipped down the insulation, and it was hot enough where it just peeled that insulation right off. So I've now got another insulation thing to fix there. And boy, that looks nasty. Electrically, I think it's really good. But the way it looks, yeah.
Well, now I have switched those 2 wires on the MavLink UART. TX was going to TX and RX was going to RX. That doesn't work. That's like having the mouthpiece on your phone going to their mouthpiece. Never going to work. Your mouthpiece has to go to their earpiece. Their mouthpiece has to go to your earpiece. So let's see what happens now. I've gone ahead and connected the Wi-Fi and tested it, trying to save time. This video's getting long. So now I'm just going to open Mission Planner. Click. This is set up UDP. So sensing it had a UDP connection the last time it opened, it says, hey, I'm going to try that again before I bitch. So here it is reading in parameters. Now why, with those 2 wires crossed, did it read or did the packets work at 50%? That's something I've seen over the years that's just strange. That's why when I tell people if it doesn't work, switch the transmit and receive wires on the UART around. See, this works. 100% link quality. I don't know how it's going to work at range. It's on minimum power right now. This is a Nano RX Pro. But why did it seem to work, but worked flakily, with the TX and RX wires wrong? They're correct now, but pretty wild, isn't it? So I have proven that my ground and voltage is correct because my receiver powers up. I have proved that my transmit and receive is correct on my, and see, I can show this with the telemetry connection rather than USB, that my CRSF works. Oops. I've got a throttle cut or a throttle arm switch. My throttle, you can't see it work until I actually flip a switch to enable that channel. So there's the CRSF working perfectly. I'll go. And it's working through the MavLink telemetry connection. Now I also have CRSF telemetry going over the Crossfire link. Let me show you that real quick.
And you can see here, telemetry. This is the values. Again, there's only 22 of them for CRSF telemetry, but that's separate from the MavLink that you see in Mission Planner. So that's all working. Those 6 wires, as nasty and dirty as they look in there, are ready to go. Seems to be fine. All 6 of them are doing what they're supposed to do. I'm still a little flipped out about the fact that the telemetry works at 50%. Well, it didn't actually work, did it? It never read in all the parameters. But it seemed to work. We got a little communication with the wires incorrectly installed. Oh boy. So now we're going to proceed across this row with the wires for the video transmitter. There's 4 of them. There'll be this transmit pin on this UART right here will be smart audio out to the video transmitter, and then ground voltage and video out to the video transmitter. So that's these 4 wires right here, and they'll be much easier to solder in. This is a little, I think this is 24 gauge wire. It's a little smaller than the wire on that shielded twisted pair, and it's solid conductor. So this is going to be much easier than the twisted pair. After I get these 4 on, then I kind of come back and do another 6 twisted pair for the compass / GPS module. Okay, there's the 4 on the video transmitter. Smart audio on that transmit pin on that UART, and then ground voltage and video. That went a lot better than these wires over here, although keep toasting up the insulation. I've turned the soldering iron down. I'm going to turn it down a little bit more. Let's see. Trying to figure out if I should do these 3 camera wires right here next, or the 6 over here. Boy, that's ugly looking. Electrically, it's sound. And I've turned the soldering iron down again. Just really small work, hard to get in there. This would clean up. There's a lot of that junk is just flux. Put some contact cleaner on it and scrub it with a toothbrush, and it'd look a whole lot better than it does right now. But it is functional. So there's the camera on there. I put a little hot glue across those 6 wires just to cover that insulation problem. So there's the second shielded twisted pair. Taking the nylon off of it. Got that drain wire. This is going to be left at this link too. What's going to happen eventually here is this drain wire and this drain wire are going to be connected together right here, and then a portion of them is going to be a run around the outside edge and over right here to this grounding ground right there down on the bottom BEC board. You can see it shining right there. It'll be grounded there. So both drain wires will be grounded there. Well, that 6 went faster, cleaner, just prettier. The solder joints are really good. Just really toasting the stuffings out of that insulation. I've turned the temperature on the soldering iron down again. Also, as you can see right here, I took the drain wire from this compass bundle, and soldered it into the drain wire in from the RC bundle to it, and cut off the excess right there. And I've still got a big length, and like I say, that's going to go around and down and ground down here eventually. So we plug in the USB and we have a light on the GPS. We at least have ground and supply voltage correct.
So let's see what we got electronically. I'm looking right here. Ooh, bingo. GPS no fix. That's what I want to see. I want to see it actually fix and get satellites, but you know, I have to give it a chance for that. Compass. Oh. We have a compass detected. Only one on the system, so I don't need 2 or 3 enabled. That looks good so far. We'll give this a few and see if it gets any kind of fix. In the meantime, I do have the camera in the VTX hooked up, but I don't have an antenna on the VTX. It should be in pit mode. Let's see, while this is attempting to lock up satellites, and I haven't done anything with the compass yet, I'll walk over there and rotate the platform a little bit and see if the at the top here changes at all, and we'll see if the camera's working too. Yep, when I rotate the platform, we have compass rotation. So we're going to call those 6 wires good and just shut up, not say another word about them to jinx it, but just move on. I will come back if we get sat locks in the basement here. I suspect we might not. All right, we have camera and we have VTX. We don't have an antenna, anything on it. I'm going to shut it down just as quick as I can. And we also, the camera's recessed too far in the camera hole there and needs a little foam cut away from the outside. But at least we do have good VTX and good flight camera at this point.
Okay, I put a big ugly glob of hot glue there on those 2 wires to hold those 2 bundles down right where they are stripped and the individual wires start to come out. I took the drain wire, I ran it around and around and around and down the side, and then brought it over, and you can see right there where it's soldered right there to the ground. So there's your drain wire on those 2 shielded cables right there. Well, there you go. I attached the airspeed sensor and soldered on the right and left. This would be the left, this would be the right elevon. I hope I got those on correct. This should be left and that should be right. I have one more place to solder. That is 1 wire right there on S3. That'll be the ESC wire. It's not pretty, but I think it's functional. And I have to get the motor glued in, and then I can place the ESC and get its wire over to that area. So let's see if servos work. Hey, check that out. We have 2 servos that are working. How about that? Oh my, we're really in trouble now. Both the equipment bay hatches went on and closed. Boy. While I was soldering in this bay where the flight controller is, I touched the side of the wing with the soldering iron a couple of times. God, just old age, I guess. Oh, now what's next? Well, all that's left is to glue in the motor, situate the ESC where it needs to be so I can run the 1 signal wire over to the flight controller, put on the elevons and the winglets on the end, and that is it. I mean, there's little things. Fix the antennas, cut the foam off the front where the camera just sat so far back in that area that when we tested it a while ago, you could see around the edges. I'm just going to chop that foam off straight. So that's all I'm going to do on it for today. I feel like I got a long way down the road today. Didn't feel like I got very far down the road yesterday. I got 4 barrel connectors sorted on and a flight controller repaired. That was it. You just don't know how many times I came over to the bench here and looked at it and decided what I might do, and then went and did something else, come back and went through it all again, and did something else, came back, went through it all again, over and over before I started. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you.